to episode 24 of the Mingled Yarncast. I am your host, Stephen, also known as KnitFen on Instagram and Ravelry. And today I'm very excited to talk to you about my current finished project, the 1999 sweater by Jen Geigley. Ooh, that's kind of fun, isn't it? Psychedelic. Um, and this has been such a fun project, and I'm going to tell you all about it in just a moment. But before I do, I'm trying to think if there's any other announcements to give you. I didn't write notes for this episode because I don't have a whole lot of time to film it, and I'm trying to squeeze this in really quickly, but I didn't want too much more time to pass before I posted something. And I just finished this 2 days ago, and yeah, like I said, I want to talk about it quite a bit. But I don't have a show to promote at the moment. Our next performance isn't going to be with the choir, with Master Voices. It's not going to be until February. So a little bit of downtime there. I do have actually a book recommendation, kind of. It's the my latest edition, or the latest edition, my copy of Yarn, which is from the Journal of Scottish Yarns. And I say a sort of recommendation because this just arrived today. I've not read it, so I can't tell you too much about what's in it, but I can tell you that from having read all of the previous issues that I've received in the last year and a half, 2 years, I really, really, really love this periodical, this magazine book. It's really more of a book, frankly, than a magazine. But it has really interesting articles about the history of the Scottish textile industry and, you know, farms, wool production, yarn production. Of course, it's called yarn. But also just the history and the cultural relevance and all kinds of things having to do with all things woolly. And I was about to say Hebridean, but is that Scottish? Or is that Irish? No, Irish is Hibernian. But the Hebrides, that's not all of Scotland, is it? Oh gosh, I'm gonna make somebody mad by saying that. Anyhow, all things Scottish. Let's just leave it at that, okay? All things Scottish wool, I should say. All right. So as I was saying, I have not read it yet, but I did read the editorial and the opening editor's welcome, I should say, which is from Susan Anderson, and she is telling us in this that this particular issue is going to be all about goats and cashmere and other woolly wonders that are produced by our cloven-hoofed friends, the goats. And the pictures in it are just gorgeous. I'm going to show you some of these, just flipping through it. I already can't wait to go through this text. Look at the centerfold there. There you go. They've got beautiful artwork, beautiful images, well-written articles and stories. And, of course, the back section is all patterns. So there's a whole lot of really fun stuff. Sweaters, mitts, a cowl, some socks. I don't want to show it all off to you because I want you to consider getting this. So there's a shawl, a scarf. Yeah, just some really, really fun things. So, yeah, give that a thought. Maybe subscribe. You too then will receive your issue in the mail. And, yeah, it's always exciting when I see this come in. And I can't wait to spend some time with it. So, there you go. The Journal of Scottish Yarns. What else to tell you before I dive into the sweater? Is there anything else to tell you? I guess I'll give you an update about, in the last episode, I said that I was going to publish three, count them, 3 patterns by the end of November, turning National Novel Writing Month into National Pattern Writing Month of my own kind of making. Getting towards the end of the month, and maybe I should scale it back 1 or 2, and still aiming to get something up by the end of the month. It may not be 3, but 1 would be better than nothing, right? So what is the saying? Like, you aim for the stars and you'll shoot the moon, something like that. I'm shooting the moon, maybe. If I don't know. That's a weird adage, isn't it? But anyway. All right. Yeah, so the sock pattern is nearly complete, and hopefully in the next week or so, I might have that ready to go. Although in the next week, if you are here in the US, we are celebrating Thanksgiving next Thursday, a week from today. And that means it's time to break out my much beloved bourbon maple cranberry sauce, which I made a video about last year. And if I can figure out how to link things in the video, like people do, you know how they point up and they're like, click this link here. And there's a link there, and you click it, and it goes. If I can figure out how to do that, maybe I'll do that. If I can't figure out how to do that, I will at least, I think I can put the link at the end of this video, and of course I can put it in the notes below. So I will do that so you can check that out. Quite a few people last year made the recipe, and they said they loved it and will add it as a staple to their Thanksgiving traditions. So it is very popular, and I am happy to share that with you. It is not my original recipe. I think I tell you where it comes from in the video. I haven't watched it in a while. But yeah, check that out. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I probably won't post anything again until after Thanksgiving. So, yeah, I hope you have a good one, spending it with family and friends and your loved ones, and that you eat lots of great food and have a wonderful time. Okay, so on to this piece. So this sweater, I'm going to back up here a little bit so you can see a bit more. Here we go. Hopefully you can still hear me too. So like I said, this is the 1999 Pullover by Jen Geigley. And I'm just going to keep moving around here so you can see it at different angles. This piece was, one of the reasons I chose this was, as I've mentioned before in a previous episode, I wanted to use something in these colors, which were inspired by the pair of shoes that I have and I've been wearing for months now. I wanted to take that color palette and make a sweater with it. And so I did. And initially I thought, oh, I'll design something fun for myself. But then I thought, no, let's just go with something that's already planned out and just enjoy the process of making it without having to think too much about, other kinds of choices that I would need to do if I were doing it from scratch by myself. I guess it was 2 or 3 months ago now that Jen Geigley had published the 1999 pattern. And in her telling of it, this pattern was inspired by the Gap ads and the Gap line of the late 90s when these very stripy sweaters were very popular. And in her version, I'll put a picture up here so you can see her version of it. She uses completely different colors for every stripe. I don't think any of them repeat. Maybe they do, but it looks like they don't. I obviously took a different route with that, and I wanted it to repeat and to have this kind of visual effect of the repetition and the color striations. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I guess stripes will do, right? The stripes. Anyhow, I wanted that visual effect, and I feel like I've achieved it. I'm so happy with this. The other reason that I wanted to do this particular pattern was I've known Jen now for, I guess, a little over a year. We sort of met online through the MCAL last year, the Westnitz MCAL. And I've told this story, but you may not have seen the episode, so I will tell it again. We both used a kit for the MCAL, and we both chose the same kit, and we both essentially made the same reel on Instagram. Very similar reels, anyway. This is my GeoGradient shawl from last year's MCAL, and I don't know that Jen ever finished hers, but she has these yarns at home, and so we bonded over that and got to know each other a bit. And you will notice, probably, if you haven't already, that there's some similarities here, right? Not a one-for-one match, but there are greens of various shades and some dark stripes happening, and so clearly there's perhaps even more thematic overlap and reason as to why subconsciously I chose these colors to make Jen's pattern. But I wanted to do it kind of as, an homage to a friend. I've gotten to know more and more designers over the years, just from knitting and interacting with people on social media. And I think it's fun to, as you get to know someone, do one of their designs, see their thought process, the way they map it out, and to follow their instructions. And it's, in some ways, it's a way of spending time with somebody and, yeah, just checking in a new and different way. So that's what I wanted to do. And so in the process of making this, I've got to tell you, it took me 2 weeks and 1 day, 15 days to make this from start to finish. And I've never made a sweater that fast before. I think the fastest I've made a sweater is about a month. And I'm not talking about like the St. Brigid sweater, which 1,000,000 cables, that took months to do. It was very time consuming, rewarding and wonderful, but time consuming. And other things, even when it's just straight up stockinette, it feels like it can take forever because, I don't know, just you get bored after a while and it feels like a slog and whatnot. So even simpler things that I've made still took more time because I enjoyed them, but I wasn't as enthralled by the process. This, as you can see, let me get closer to you again. It's just stockinette. It's a raglan construct. You can see the shoulders there a little bit. But the basic structure is nothing out of the ordinary. But because the colors change every 6 rounds or rows, because it starts off flat, every 6 rows or rounds it changes, and that's kind of just enough to keep mentally engaged with it. Like this piece never got boring. The reason I was able to finish it in 2 weeks was, one, it's worsted weight yarn, so it's a little bit thicker, and that makes it go a little bit faster. But as the colors developed, I kept wanting to see what was going to happen next. And I experienced this too, and you probably have as well with stranded color work, because you're creating patterns then visually. And this isn't creating a complex pattern in the way that the Fall River vest that I made recently did. But it is engaging mentally. So it never feels like it was never a slog. It was never work. I enjoyed every moment of this. And yeah, I can't say that enough. I haven't even blocked it yet. I still have to weave in the ends on the inside. You can't see it, but that needs to be done. And I haven't blocked it. I wore it to school yesterday, and I think that as I've worn it and as my body has heated it up a bit, the sleeves is what I mean to say. You can see it here. The sleeves kind of crawled up a little bit because when I made it at first, they came down all the way to my wrist, but they kind of now go. So I think that's happening because of body heat, perhaps. And when I block it, that will stretch out a little bit more. And, I'm sure it will go back and forth a little bit, which I'm fine with because honestly, most of the time when I'm wearing a sweater of any kind, I have my sleeves pulled up anyway. So it's totally fine. Another thing that I wanted to say, I wore this to school, as I mentioned, and I got complimented right away on this collar. And of course, it's a compliment to Jen and her design because I did it the way that she wrote it. When I initially picked up the stitches for the collar, the size that I made, it called for 84 stitches around. And I thought that I had meticulously planned it out the way I was going to do it. Sorry, this is wobbling a little bit. But I ended up with 104. And I was like, well, okay, it looks and feels right. Let me just try that. And I did. And I made the whole thing. And I was like, no, this thing's too big. It's turning into more of like a boat-shaped collar. And I just don't love that. So I said, nope, I'm going to do this over again. I'm going to do it the way that Jen said to do it with 84 stitches. And we're going to make that work. So I was even more meticulous. I divided the front, back, and in the middle of the raglan section so that I could get 21 stitches between each quarter. And then the next thing she said to do was to do 20 rounds, which basically brought it up here as a turtleneck, and then to fold it in on itself and to whip stitch around. So I don't know if this is very useful to show you this, but yeah, that's what I did. I folded it in and made it go around. But again, because I don't know, I think I know what I'm talking about often when I don't. I thought to myself, maybe I don't need to do all of this. Maybe instead of doing 20 stitches and folding it, I'll just do 10. And then the neck will be similar to the collar, the cuff and the waistband. And when I got that far to 10, I thought, no. There's a reason she said to do this, and I'm going to do what she said to do. And I did. And so now you get this like beautiful, I don't know what you call this style, to be frank, but it's a little puffy. It sits nicely on the neck and gives a little lift. It's great. It's a beautiful, beautiful collar construction, and I love it. And so hold on here. There we go. My computer was getting kind of dark. I had to turn the brightness up. Yeah, it's really, really nice, and so I'm very pleased with that. And I highly suggest if you make this sweater, you too follow Jen's guidelines because she knows what she is talking about. There's a reason she's the expert. Okay, so something else to tell you about this project. Once I finished it, do you ever have this happen where you're like, okay, I'm rushing, I'm finishing, I'm going to get it done, and you're so excited, and then it's like, oh, but it's done, and I know I have other things I could work on, but I wanted to keep going with this, and I wanted more to do with this yarn and this project and this sweater. And so I thought to myself, well, I do have some leftover yarn. I'll grab it here and show you what's left after everything is said and done. Here it is. I've got very little of the olive green. A bit, but not a ton. And quite a bit left of these two. So it took almost 2 full skeins of the olive green. That ended up being kind of my main color. And then a skein and then some of each of the other colors, more of the black than the other two, but there's still quite a bit of these left. And I thought to myself, well, okay, no, maybe I'll make a hat. That would be fun, right? And that'd be useful, something to match this. Maybe do it more in this as the base so that on my head it will, it won't just be a continuation of this pattern, but same colors, same idea, different interpretation. That might be fun. But then I thought to myself, wait a second. This is the Highland line from Harrisville Designs. Isn't that what I bought 2 or 3 years ago when I was at Rhinebeck? And didn't I get a sweater quantity of these yarns? And, well, you probably figured out by now that yes, I did. I did. And I knew that I had Harrisville Designs, that much I remembered, but I did not remember that it was exactly the Highland yarn, which is the same base as what I've worked with before. So I have a sweater's quantity of these 2 colors, and I thought to myself, what if we made another one of these? Why not make another 1999 sweater? But this time, instead of this kind of repetition, what I will do is I actually have 4 of this color and 2 of the darker purple. So this will be the base and the main color. And I think what I will do is every other stripe will be this, what do they call it? Garnet. It will be in garnet. And then, so yeah, every other stripe in garnet. Garnet is the main color. Then every 4th stripe will be this. But then, for the alternate ones, I will work in a stripe or 2 of these so that, let's see if I can get all of this up here. All of these together will create something that's perhaps closer to Jen's original vision of the very multicolored sweater. I'm not entirely sold yet on bringing these 2 together because I feel like it's giving Joker, isn't it? It's which I like, but that's not really what I want to wear. I don't know. I'll play around with it and we'll see. Maybe that's going to work out. Maybe it won't. But definitely these together will make for some interesting color play. And throwing in a stripe of this olive green into it. I know that looks like a mess, but you kind of, I think you can kind of see it, right? Maybe. So, like I said, every other stripe, every fourth stripe, and then alternating with some of these so that they will get repeated, probably each used like twice, but not as repeated as they are in this current one. So, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. And I've got Christmas presents and I've got other things that I've given myself the task of completing on a deadline. But like I said, this one took me 2 weeks. And now that I know what I'm doing, next one might take me less than 2 weeks. I bet that I can get it done probably in just under 2 weeks, I think. So, yeah, keep an eye out. There may be another 1999 pullover coming your way via these hands. And I will, of course, be sharing that with you when the time comes. And I think that may be it for today. I keep looking at my watch because like I said, I have a time crunch here and some deadlines to be on the computer for. So I've got to get off here in just a moment. But anyhow, thank you for joining me again. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Check out the pattern 1999 by Jen Geigley and make one of your own. Share it. And yeah, happy knitting and happy Thanksgiving.